There is a young female journalist, conservative journalist, by the name of Laura Loomer.
If America's men acted like Laura Loomer, our problems will be fixed in about 5 minutes.
Chained herself.
She chained herself.
Good evening and welcome to episode 117 of Loomer Unleashed. I'm your host, Laura Loomer. We are live right now on Rumble and X, so please make sure that you head on over to rumble.com/Laura Loomer, rumble.com/Laura Loomer, and you can click the follow button on Rumble. That way you can never miss an episode of Loomer Unleashed. You're going to need to download the Rumble app on your phone and enable notifications so that you get notified every single time I go live with another episode of Loomer Unleashed. You can also subscribe to support my work here at Loomer Unleashed by clicking the Get Loomered button, which will take you to my locals page where you can subscribe for $7 a month or $70 per year. This is an independent news publication and broadcast, and we are opening eyes and spreading truth and informing people all across the country and all around the world of the issues that matter to you, the people, lawmakers. Even President Donald Trump himself is a fan and viewer of Loomer Unleashed, so you definitely do not want to ever miss an episode of Unleashed. We're live on X, so please be sure that you're reposting the live link. Be sure that you follow me on X at Laura Loomer and on X at Loomer Unleashed. We have thousands of live viewers right now, and viewership as we talk about these shocking issues. Joining me momentarily is my special guest tonight, an individual by the name of Carlos Tercios, who's the Tarrant County GOP involvement chairman. Now, Carlos is out of Texas, and as the thumbnail of the show and the title of the show says tonight, there is an Islamic takeover currently happening in Texas. This is something that I have been warning about in our country for the last 10 years. Many of you who have been my longtime viewers and supporters who are familiar with my background understand how I became the most banned woman in the world. In that book that I wrote behind me, Loomered, How I Became the Most Banned Woman in the World, because I was speaking out about Islam. I was telling the truth about Islam, and that's when Islamic groups decided to lobby the social media companies to ban me on social media, and ultimately I was banned on all social media sites and payment platforms and was even debanked. Why do I bring this up? Because now, 10 years later, everybody's freaking out because there is a massive 400-acre Islamic compound that is currently being built in Texas called Epic City. And this is now getting national news coverage. You have senators in Texas like Senator John Cornyn, who isn't exactly a MAGA guy. I mean, he's pretty hardcore rhino. He's now being primaried by Ken Paxton. But even people like John Cornyn, rhino, who's on video saying, inshallah, we're going to play these clips for you tonight, felt compelled enough to refer Epic for a DOJ referral for investigation. Ken Paxton as well is also calling for a criminal investigation into the Epic compound. And even Governor Abbott himself was forced to issue a statement after he was berated online by GOP voters and Texas residents who asked the governor why he was so silent when a Sharia encampment was being built in Texas. Okay, so this is real. This is happening. This is not a conspiracy theory. My next guest, who he's ready to go now, so we might as well just bring him in now. Carlos Tercios, the Tarrant County GOP involvement chairman, joins me tonight from Texas. I believe he's joining us from the Texas Capitol where he works for a Texas state representative. But he's gonna explain to you what's going on in Texas and how the Republicans, right? These are Democrats. The resolutions are being brought forth by Democrats, but it's actually Republicans in the state of Texas. Okay, so just imagine if this can happen in the state of Texas, we are totally done for as a country. If the Republicans in Texas are going to sit back and allow for their state to be conquered by a bunch of jihadist Muslims, then what does that say for the rest of our country? What does that say? What kind of message culturally is that sending to the individuals in the Muslim Brotherhood and in the Islamic community who desire the implementation of a full-blown Islamic caliphate here in the United States of America? I will say, you do not need a Muslim majority in order to have an entire civilization conquered. Any single time there's ever been an Islamic conquest, they did it when they were in the minority. Okay, history has many examples of Islamic conquest, and look, they are in the minority here in the United States, but as we have seen and history has shown us, empires can crumble and civilizations can be conquered by minority populations. So joining me now to discuss this Islamic takeover in the state of Texas is Carlos Tercios. Carlos, thank you so much for joining me, especially on such short notice, but it was really great that we could get you on tonight as this situation is escalating in the state of Texas.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Laura, for the invite and for giving me the opportunity to talk about what's happening here in Texas. Right now, we have, unfortunately, like you said, a takeover from radical jihadists and radical Islamists here in Texas. Here in Texas, in the capital, we've had several resolutions that has in the Texas House. Actually, I'm going to read a couple of these resolutions. One of them is House Resolution 34, recognizing the holy month of Ramadan. It was passed in the House. One of them is H.R. 36, recognizing Eid al-Fitr, which was also passed in the House. The other one is probably one of the most heinous ones, Pakistan Day. And Pakistani media reported on that House Resolution 32, and they pretty much celebrated when that was passed in the Texas House. The other one is House Concurrent Resolution 85, which designates March 15 as the day to combat Islamophobia for a 10-year period ending in 2035. That was referred to Culture, Recreation, and Tourism Committee. And then the other one is May as Muslim Heritage Month for a 10-year period ending in 2035. And that was referred to the Culture and Recreation and Tourism. There are also bills that are being proposed in the Texas House. Two of the bills, one of them would allow Muslim employees to trade off Christian holidays so they can observe Islamic holy days instead. And the other authorizes Muslim officials to conduct marriage ceremonies. Both have been assigned to the House committees and have not had a hearing yet, and that's what the Fort Worth Report reported. But there's a effort within Texas government to bring slowly this Islamic elements, holidays, ceremonies, and a lot of people are going to make the argument that, well, First Amendment, they have the right to do whatever they want. The problem is they are going to follow a Sharia law mindset and structure. And that's how you ultimately take over the culture, is by slowly implementing.
And this is not religion. What people need to understand is that Islam is not a religion. First of all, I'm Jewish, as many people know, but this is a Christian country. Okay, we live in a Christian country. This is a Christian country, and the values of our country, as enshrined in the United States Constitution, come from the Judeo-Christian values in the Bible. Okay, it's a Christian country. Jews are in the minority, Muslims are in the minority, and all religious populations need to respect the fact that this is a Christian country. And unfortunately, you see a lot of these minority groups that don't want to respect the fact that we are a Christian nation. And so it's problematic because not only are the values of Islam completely oppositional to the Judeo-Christian values that we find in the Bible, but it's also directly oppositional to the values and the standards that we have for freedom and personal liberty in Western civilization, not just here in the United States of America, but, the free Western world as a whole. And so when you go to any of these Muslim countries in the world, 56 of them, some of them will say that there's 57, but Palestine is not a country, despite the belligerent rants of the radical left. and their Qatari-backed Muslim Brotherhood funders who are propping up this Palestinian movement, they practice Sharia law in most of these Muslim majority countries. And it's very concerning because Pakistan is one of the most radical Muslim countries. And Pakistan is where they still carry out honor killings. They still have Sharia courts. They practice Islamic law. And yet now they have lawmakers, from my understanding, they have lawmakers in the Republican-led legislature in Texas that are actually creating resolutions to recognize March 23rd as Pakistan Day. And this actually passed. This isn't even something that's up for discussion anymore. This actually is a resolution that passed. It barely got any media attention, but it's just shocking that in a place like Texas, of all places, where Islamic terrorists have opened up fire in the past. I remember the Garland, Texas attack where you had Muslim terrorists from ISIS who decided to show up to the Muhammad cartoon contest in Garland, Texas, and they opened fire and they almost killed several people. You would think that there would be more opposition to this, but you actually have the Republican Speaker of the House. This guy's name is Dustin Burrows. I want to go ahead and get this photo up because it is honestly so shocking. You have to see this photo. There's a photo of this Pakistan Day resolution actually passing in the House, and you have some guy in the middle. This was a screen grab from Pakistani media. So Pakistani media is actually celebrating the Islamic conquest. Okay. And you notice that in Islamic imagery, anytime there's a radical Muslim involvement in anything, symbolism is very important to them, which is why their sign and their symbol for Islam is a moon crescent, because a moon, right, when you're looking at the sky, is above everything else. And so that's why when they want to have their Muslim Day at the Capitol, all their imagery is the Islamic crescent above the state capitals, right? And all their flyers that they make for these Muslim Day at the Capitol, or even in this photo, let's cut back to this photo again, Texas makes history. You have the American flag blurred out to the corner, but then it's the Pakistani and Islamic flag that is dominant. And of course, the Islamic crescent is above all of their heads, especially above the head. It's actually above the height of Dustin Burrows, the Rhino Speaker of the House, there on the far right image of that photo. So for some people, they may not look that deep into a photo, but if you've taken Islamic counterterrorism training like I have, then you know that symbolism is very important to Muslim people, especially Islamic jihadists in their conquest of America and the implementation of the explanatory memorandum, which was a Muslim Brotherhood document outlining the Islamic conquest of America, something that we've discussed on this show before. It is quite shocking. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I mean, again, let's show the photo one last time so people understand. The guy with the beard, okay, with the kind of blondish graying hair on the far right side of that photo. At least it's my far right when I'm looking at the screen here. On the far right side, that's Dustin Burrows. That's the Rhino Speaker of the House in Texas in the Republican legislature. And there he is designating March 23rd. It's official, and March 23rd is now Pakistan Day, to honor Pakistani Texans, which is just crazy given the fact that Pakistan, we're talking about people that harbored bin Laden. Okay, we're talking about a country that has Islamic jihadists and they openly practice Sharia law, and we're honoring them in Texas. Are you're kidding me?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very disappointing to see, leadership, of course, fall apart here in Texas. Republicans are expected to, of course, defend America, defend the Constitution, and defend biblical values. I will say that there is a group of 26 Republicans here in the House, even though they are a minority. They are very bold. They're very vocal. They're pushing back against resolutions like these. Last week, we had a resolution that honored Planned Parenthood, and that was struck down because of the 26 House Republicans. But unfortunately, we do not have a majority in the House. A lot of them, unfortunately, are very moderate, and they allow resolutions like these. And let's just stick to the facts. Radical Sharia law has no place in Texas, has no place in America. There have been reports by the Rare Foundation, Amy Mack, Ken Paxton, about the epic city that's being constructed in Texas. And all of this is happening because we have weak Republican leadership. Republicans need to have a backbone. We need strong America First Republicans that will actually push back against this invasion that we are seeing, because look at what's happening in Europe. Look at the UK, look at Germany, look at all of those countries. They have fallen apart because of weak leadership. And we need America First Republicans. I mean, thank God President Trump won the White House in 2024, because he's not going to play around. But unfortunately, there are states, like in Texas, where we have weak Republican leadership that does not fight back. And all we're asking, all the Republican voters are asking, is to simply push back and not tolerate resolutions or even bills that enable radical Sharia Islam.
There's another resolution to make Texas lawmakers want to officially recognize Ramadan in the Capitol. So again, They want to have an entire designation for the month that Muslims celebrate Ramadan, and they want it to be like an official holiday recognized by the state of Texas. So kind of bizarre. Again, I don't know why we need to have lawmakers pandering to the Muslim community in Texas and proclaiming this. And there are certain Islamic groups that I'm not allowed to speak about, but I do know that there are certain Islamic groups in this country that are recognized as Islamic terrorist organizations, even by other Muslim countries, including the UAE and Saudi Arabia. And these Islamic organizations, which have not yet been designated as terrorist organizations here in the United States, even though they were referred to be classified as terrorist organizations in the Holy Land Foundation terrorism trial, are literally writing press releases congratulating GOP Texas lawmakers on recognizing this day of Islamophobia, or recognizing these resolutions to celebrate Ramadan, to designate March 23rd as Pakistan Day, to designate April 29th, which is coming up in 5 days, as Muslim Capital Day. So your entire capital is about to be completely taken over by Muslims, many of whom are, advocates for designated Islamic terrorist organizations and radical factions like SJP and the Muslim Society of America, ISNA, all these groups that have Muslim Brotherhood affiliations, associations with Hamas. They are going to be taking over, correct me if I'm wrong, your capital in 5 days. And the Republicans, the governor of Texas, is allowing for Muslim Capital Day to take place. Is that correct?
Yes, unfortunately, we will be experiencing that here in Austin, Texas. A lot of radical Sharia law Muslim activists will be showing up. I do believe that there is a counter protest to push back against that. I think Rare Foundation, Amy Meck, and some other people that are organizing that one. But that's the problem. I mean, when you have weak leadership within the GOP, you end up with this mess. You end up with radicals being bold enough to the point that they are now creating a city in the state of Texas, passing resolutions, and even people in Texas that are radical Sharia fanatics. They're basically admitting to the public, like, yes, we want to pass as many laws as we can to uphold and push and elevate Muslims in the political power in Texas. And sorry about that. That basically,
I think your screen glitched out, but we have you back now.
Glitched.
Yeah, it's pretty out of control. I want to go ahead and play this clip, actually, of clip number 16, because it's just so shocking. This is the Republican House. Again, it's a Republican legislature with a Republican Speaker of the House. This is a clip of these Republicans designating April 29th as Muslim Capital Day. Again, that's in 5 days from now. Let's go ahead and play clip number 16.
Following resolutions by Lalani are being referred to the Committee on Local and Consent Calendars. H.R. 32 through H.R. 45 and H.R. 147, H.R. 148. Following resolutions by Leo Wilson are being referred to the Committee on Local and Consent Calendars. Following resolutions by Lalani are being referred to the Committee on Local and Consent Calendars. H.R. 32 through H.R. 45 and H.R. 147, H.R. 148. Following resolutions by Leo Wilson are being referred to the Committee on Local and Consent Calendars.
Yeah, I mean, it's very unfortunate.
We'll play it one more time, just in case people didn't hear that, because it's just so shocking. He talks really fast, so, you have to really be paying attention. One more time, in case you missed what he said.
Following resolutions by Lalani are being referred to the Committee on Local and Consent Calendars. H.R. 32 through H.R. 45 and H.R. 147, H.R. 148. Following resolutions by Leo Wilson are being referred to the Committee on Local and Consent Calendars.
So what are those resolutions, those numbers that he
Yeah,
listed out?
HR 32 is the Pakistan Day,
Okay.
and of course, other resolutions have been presented in Texas, but just going back to leadership here in Texas, it's very
Yeah, we could scroll
unfortunate.
down right here. We have it up on the screen right here for people that are watching. Let's scroll up so people can see exactly what we're
Yeah,
talking about. Texas House Resolution 32 that you just heard them
32
announce on the floor. And you scroll down, it says passed on March 20th. Scroll up a little bit,
uh-huh.
March 20th, 2025. Okay, that's
Yep.
it actually passed, okay, in the Republican legislature, recognizing Pakistan Day at the state
Yeah.
capitol. Representative Suleiman Lalani. So do we now have Muslim representatives? Do we have jihadist representatives? Is that individual who's a representative a Muslim?
Yes, we have a couple here in Texas, in the Texas House.
It's a problem
Yeah.
because we've seen, look at what happens when you allow these people into Congress. And look, I don't hate Muslim people, but it does need to be said that every single Muslim who has ever been elected to the United States Congress has been supportive of the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. Andre Carson has ties to groups that have been designated as terrorist organizations and is supported by the Muslim Brotherhood. Keith Ellison is our first pro-Sharia attorney general, who was the chair of the DNC for a while until he had to resign because he likes to beat women up. He is also a really big supporter of Farrakhan. He's affiliated with ISIS mosques in the state of Minnesota, as I have exposed in the past. You have Rashida Tlaib, you have Ilhan Omar. All four Muslims who have ever been elected to the United States Congress are all tied to terrorist organizations. There hasn't been a single Muslim elected to the United States Congress who doesn't have terror ties. And so, again, I don't hate Muslim people, but again, we're batting at 100 here, okay? We are literally batting at 100. 4 for 4, okay? 100%. 100% of the Muslim lawmakers who have ever been elected to Congress have ties to Islamic terrorists. So, again, you're telling me now, too, that the Muslim representatives in Texas, all of them are advocating for these pro-terror organizations in these Sharia compounds. So they'll call me an Islamophobe. They like to call me an Islamophobe. They call me an anti-Muslim bigot here, anti-Muslim Laura Loomer. But again, the facts speak for itself. They practice Sharia law in Pakistan. Let's just go to Google really quick, just so we could show people. They do honor killings in Pakistan. You could even pull it up. Type in honor killing on Google. Just type in honor killing Pakistan. Okay, and every day there's a news story in the news about honor killings in Pakistan. Go to the news. Let's see. Type in news. Here we go. 2 killed over honor in Pakistan SWAT. Okay, so Islamabad. This story is from 2 days ago. 2 people were shot dead on Tuesday in Pakistan's picturesque Swat Hill station due to an illicit relationship, highlighting the country's struggle with honor-based violence. So they literally will murder you, and they're allowed to murder you out in the open. The men are allowed to murder women if they, deem them to be guilty of committing these honor crimes. And this is what these lawmakers are allowing for. We're going to literally have a day in the Texas legislature honoring a country that practices honor killings as a way to subjugate women.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is just appalling that a resolution like that would even be passed in the Texas House. I do want to say thank you to Representative Nate Schatzline, other reformers in the Texas House that are fighting every single day to combat this. Even though it's 26 members, they are fighting every single day to actually put Texas first and put America first. That number needs to increase. We want more America First reformers in the House, in Texas, and across America, because unfortunately within the GOP, you still have rhinos and moderates that do not care, and they will make deals with Democrats. They will compromise their values, and this is the result. I mean, you have Pakistan Day, a country that supports radical Sharia law, that has honor killings, and they will kill Christians, they will kill Jews, they terrorize anyone that is a non-Muslim, and that's seen across the Islamic world. I mean, when Muslims come to America, many of them, unfortunately, will bring their radical ideas. You're seeing that in Plano, Texas. You're seeing that even in college campuses. You're seeing radical Islamists just take over Yale, take over Harvard, take over UT Austin here in Austin, Texas. where you had last year, you had DPS troopers and other law enforcement having to stop a riot at UT Austin because you had thousands of indoctrinated kids that believe in Hamas, they believe in radical Islam and terrorism.
Well, I just think it's really disrespectful. How many Texas armed servicemen have been killed in the war on terror since the war on terror was launched in the aftermath of the 9/11 Islamic terrorist attacks? How many? And then we're going to be honoring Pakistan when Pakistan harbored Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, no, I mean it's disrespectful.
I mean, it's really disrespectful. It's really disrespectful to everybody who is a victim of Islamic terror, everybody who has been a victim of the war on terror, our armed service members, all of the Americans and family members of Americans who lost their lives in the 9/11 Islamic terrorist attacks. Really, really, really crazy behavior going on here by these lawmakers. But it gets worse. We have more videos here. So we showed the video of them designating it as Muslim Capital Day. Let's play the video of them recognizing March 23rd as Pakistan Day, because we have all of this on video too. It's not just us reading documents. They are literally on video doing this stuff in the Republican state legislature in the capital of Texas. Go ahead and play this clip.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend all necessary rules to take up and consider H.R. 32.
Members, you've heard the motion. Is there any objection? Chair is none. The rules are suspended. Following resolution, the clerk will read the resolution.
H.R. 32 by Lalani recognizing Pakistan Day at the state capitol.
Chair recognizes Dr. Lalani to explain the resolution.
So that's the speaker, Dustin Burrows, basically signing off on this when he should be, if he had any honor and he had any courage, he would be protesting, in my opinion, or taking a stand against Pakistan Day in the Capitol. We have other videos here as well. It's just so shocking. Let's go ahead and play clip number 14 of Texas lawmakers recognizing Ramadan.
The clerk will read the resolutions.
H.R. 34 by Lalani, Holy Month of Ramadan. H.R. 36 by Lalani, Eid al-Fitr 2025. H.R. 38 by Lalani, Mother's Day. H.R. 39 by Lalani.
The clerk will read the resolutions.
H.R. 34 by Lalani, Holy Month of Ramadan. H.R. 36 by Lalani, Eid al-Fitr 2025. H.R. 38 by Lalani, Mother's Day. H.R. 39 by...
So not just Ramadan, but Eid al-Iftar as well. Multiple Islamic holidays. What can you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, they passed H.R. 34, which is to recognize Ramadan, and H.R. 36 Eid al-Fitr. Those two are Islamic holidays. And of course, some of the lawmakers have admitted that their main goal is just, of course, to promote Islam in the state of Texas. But really, I mean, all of these resolutions, and there's more resolutions that have been passed or introduced into a committee that just promote Islam. Bottom line is the committees in Texas they have a majority Republican presence, which means that these resolutions shouldn't even make it to the floor. But the fact that they are making it to the floor means that there are Republicans and chairmen that they allow this to go through the process and make it to the floor, and then ultimately they get passed. So once again, just showing that weak leadership within the GOP, and of course having rhinos, moderates, in charge of institution committees in Texas, is the reason why we are seeing this madness.
I want to move along now to this compound that is being erected in Texas, the Epic City compound. And I know that now this has been going on for quite some time now, and a lot of Texas residents have been concerned about it, but it's only now starting to go viral on social media. And now all of these lawmakers who have otherwise ignored it for so long are being forced to speak out against it. And now that Ken Paxton has decided to primary John Cornyn, now you're seeing these two men engage in a pissing match over who's going to do more to call out the Epic City compound. And so you think we have an article. Let's get it pulled up on the screen. You have John Cornyn, who has just referred to the DOJ, asked this Epic City compound, asking them to do a criminal investigation into the Islamic compound, and I believe now it's a criminal investigation because they got caught having a funeral home without a license. Is that correct? So they're deciding how they're going to desecrate and handle dead bodies in violation of state laws and state protocols, and you have to have a license. You have to have the proper licensing to operate a funeral home, but this is just further evidence that they really are trying to create Sharia law because, you know, Muslims have their own standards for how they bury the dead. But again, this is very concerning given the fact that things like honor killings and stonings and, you know, lynchings of homosexuals are all things that they do in these Muslim communities. So how do we not know that they're going to have their own coroners who decide to cover up death or, you know, falsify death certificates in this compound there to cover up a woman who's maybe beaten to death or a child that's beaten to death or abused, right? So this is very shocking that things like this are happening in Texas. I see that that John Cornyn is also calling for an investigation, and even Greg Abbott was forced to issue a statement saying that Sharia law does not exist in Texas. But I think that the governor may need to think again, because I don't think these Muslims are going to be asking for permission for whether or not they can have permission, Carlos, for implementing Sharia law. You don't ask for permission when you're trying to conquer a state or when you're trying to conquer a society or a civilization. It looks like they're just going ahead and implementing Sharia law without asking the governor for permission. And so I think that Governor Abbott is being a bit naive to say, I think we have a statement here. We can go ahead and get Governor Abbott. We have a statement, actually. Let's go ahead and get that pulled up. Governor Abbott announced an investigation, and he put a statement out on Facebook, I believe, in which he said that there was not going to be any Sharia law. But do you think that the governor is naive? Here we go. Governor Abbott directs Texas Rangers to investigate Plano Islamic Center's proposed development. Do you think that Governor Abbott is naive in his thinking that there is no Sharia law in Texas? Because from the looks of it, it looks like there is Sharia law.
Well, I think the governor's reacting to the reports that were made many months ago. I know Rare Foundation, they were the ones who, one of the first ones that reported on what was happening in Plano. And that ultimately caught, fire. It ultimately blew up on Twitter and everywhere. And Governor Abbott made a statement that he was going to respond to it. I believe that Attorney General Ken Paxton was taking an aggressive role in actually tackling what's happening in Epic City, and also trying to investigate the connection between the school board members and other elected officials with this radical mosque in Plano. That was actually posted a couple of days ago, and that was through the Rare Foundation's reporting. But I think the elected officials in Texas are reacting because it's blown up. I mean, to be frank, it shouldn't even have blown up to this point where this compound is even being created. In 2017, the state of Texas passed a Sharia law bill, and that law pretty much prohibits the creation or the construction of any community that follows Sharia law because it's incompatible with the Constitution. It goes against the American Constitution and our way of life. So that's been mentioned by some state reps here in Texas. I know Representative Chatzline made a press release where he urged the Speaker of the House to take more of an aggressive act against this creation of this Sharia law city. But frankly, I think Attorney General Ken Paxton is taking more of a lead when it comes to actually cracking down on this. Hopefully there's a case study.
It seems like John Cornyn has been very sympathetic to the Muslim community there. I mean, I believe there's even a clip of him saying inshallah, like pandering, trying to speak Arabic to appeal to the Muslims. So of course now he has a fire lit under his ass because Ken Paxton has announced a primary, and people are very, I wouldn't say that Republicans are very fond of John Cornyn, who has found himself facing the ire of President Trump on more than one occasion. Let's go ahead and play this clip of Republican United States Senator John Cornyn giving it his best shot at speaking Arabic. It's quite shocking in my opinion, that we have Republican senators in the United States Senate that find it necessary to pander to Muslims by saying inshallah. It's just, it's quite offensive to me, but let's go ahead and play this clip.
Hi, I'm Texas Senator John Cornyn. I want to take a moment to say, I know this year's Ramadan will be different from those before, and that's why it's important to keep the spirit of hope and community alive. I wish you all a good fast and that you and your friends and families stay safe during this challenging time. Ramadan Mubarak.
And I noticed that Islamic Relief is the group that published that. Islamic
Yes.
Relief is one of the groups that was referred for criminal prosecution during the Holy Land Foundation terrorism trial because they have been accused of funneling money to Islamic terrorist organizations, including Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. So that's really nice for John Cornyn to appear in terrorist propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, that once again, it's an example, a case study of what moderate Republicans do, and that is, of course, pander to these radical institutions and radical groups, such as the Islamic Relief or other organizations. I mean, Cornyn, of course, right now is trying to appear tough against the construction of the Sharia law city in Texas and trying to defend his record. But if you look back, I mean, he said inshallah last year at the RPT convention when he was being interviewed by reporters. I mean, why would a senator say, praise to Allah, which is what inshallah basically translates to? Why would a senator say that? And especially one that says that is a Republican and a conservative. Why would you say that? It just doesn't make any logical sense. Now, of course, that Ken Paxton's running against him. Now, all of a sudden, he is saying, oh, I'm tough against radical Islam, I'm tough against, Sharia law. But the record, if you just go back to, if you can go to YouTube and just type in, Islam or Ramadan and type in John Cornyn, you'll see all of this nonsense. I mean, Cornyn doing that is a insult to Christians, an insult to America, an insult to the Constitution, and he needs to go. I mean, 2026, when the primary comes by,
Well, yeah, and I was going to say that in June of 2014, Israel even added the Islamic Relief to a list of organizations banned from operating in the country of Israel because they accused Islamic Relief of funding Hamas. They said that the charity's West Bank offices were raided, during which time computers were destroyed, files were confiscated, and then office safe was forcibly opened, in which they found evidence, according to Israeli officials, that they were funding Hamas. And so they have since denied these allegations and said that they operate as just a charity. But as we know, Islam permits Muslims to lie to non-Muslims. It's the principle of taqiyya for the sake of advancing Islam and advancing the Islamic Caliphate in the West. And so it's really shocking. I mean, I encourage everybody to look up Islamic Relief and their affiliations with Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood and their terrorist affiliations. The fact that Senator John Cornyn appeared in a video in which he is saying inshallah, and essentially it's like a promotion video. It's like a promotion video for Islamic Relief. At the end, they have their branding. So that's pretty shocking given the fact that Islamic Relief has open affiliations with Hamas, which is a terrorist organization. Hamas is erecting their flag outside of the White House, calling for death to America, death to Israel, death to Jews, death to Christians. I mean, this is not a conspiracy theory. We have these individuals on video. It's my understanding, too, that there's been a lot of pro-Hamas activity at the universities in Texas, including in Austin. So anything you can say about that? Because, of course, now John Cornyn's going to pretend like he's been tough on Islam because he's getting primaried, but the video speaks for itself.
Absolutely. All of these rhinos that, they're trying to appear that they are tough and that they're against radical Islam. Their record, of course, will speak for itself, and John Cornyn's record will speak for itself. He has supported radical Islam, and he's enabled organizations such as Islamic Relief. But going back to, going to the radical Islamists that are terrorizing our college campuses, at the University of Texas at Arlington, there's been a couple students that were deported. They are actually being deported because of their activities on campus. I do praise President Trump and his administration for deporting these radicals because they all need to be deported. I think ICE needs to raid every single college campus in America. Just do a giant operation all at once and deport all of these radicals because they burn the American flag. They terrorize students. They terrorize Jewish students, Christian students, anyone that does not support radical Islam or Hamas. They are going to antagonize, bully, harass, assault, and even threaten to kill. And we need ICE. And in some cases, when there's a huge riot, the National Guard as well. I mean, they all
these
need to
people
go
are
back.
terrorists too. I mean, this is not hyperbole. In fact, there's a video. Let's go ahead and play clip number 2 that demonstrates how President Trump's mass deportation raids across the country has actually resulted in a 655% spike in terrorist arrests. So these are not just illegal aliens. Many of these individuals who are getting swept up in these deportation raids are in fact members of terrorist organizations, which is very scary to think of. But of course, you're no stranger to this, being in Texas, which is a border state. That's where they're all coming in. For the most part, they're coming in through the U.S. Mexico border in Texas, and also the border between the United States and Canada in the north. So those are the 2 places where these jihadists are coming in. Let's go ahead and play clip number 2.
The Trump administration's mass deportation agenda has already resulted in a 655% increase in terrorists being nabbed roaming the country. Since President Trump's inauguration on January 20th of this year, more than 200 known or suspected terrorists have been nabbed by ICE, including one who is on his country's most wanted list. During the same period, under the Biden administration last year, there were just 29 such arrests made. The individual who was on his country's most wanted list is Harpreet Singh, who's from India. He crossed the border illegally in 2022 into Arizona and was subsequently released by the Biden administration. At the time of his apprehension at the border, agents did not know his terror ties. For more than 3 years, Singh was allowed to roam the country with impunity. Singh was wanted in his home country for terrorist recruiting and terror funding. He was also wanted for planning grenade attacks on Indian police. Luckily, ICE was able to nab him in Sacramento last week. Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin told the Post recently that under President Trump and Secretary Noam's leadership, ICE is unleashed to remove these violent criminals from America's streets and put an end to catch and release. She said the Biden administration is fully to blame for allowing illegal migrants with terror ties like Singh to roam the country for years before they were nabbed by ICE.
Thoughts on that?
I'm not surprised. Unfortunately, our college campuses and across America, you have a lot of these international students that have been arriving. At UTA, for example, the university that I went to, University of Texas Arlington, a good sizable portion of the student population, we have around more than 40,000 students, almost half are not from America. And a lot of them, there's actually a huge Islamic population on campus. And they have been joining some of these Islamic students and Muslim students. They've been joining these socialist groups. You've been seeing it at UT Austin as well and other universities in America. And they have been joining these protests, these riots. They have been harassing. I know at UTA a couple of days ago, they actually tried to occupy one of their buildings, education buildings, and demand that they pretty much cut funds with some companies because support Israel, and that's considered genocide, and that they're killing innocent people, and etc. But they have been disrupting classrooms. They have been disrupting, day-to-day activities. They have been harassing professors. They have been harassing other students that don't follow their radical beliefs. But if you're an international student and you are burning the American flag, you're spitting on the American flag, you want to kill Americans, and you support radical Sharia law, you need to be deported. And I don't want you crying because you get deported because you're an ungrateful POS that does not deserve to be in America. We want people that love America, that support America. Every single radical Sharia fanatic in America, heck, I don't care if they deport 90% of a university, if they're all radical Islamists and radical Muslims that want to burn the American flag.
It seems like, though, there's more than just legislators in the Capitol there and the legislator in Texas who are in support of building this Sharia compound, this Epic City compound. We have a video of the Plano, Texas mayor expressing his support for constructing the Sharia law city. Let's go ahead and play clip number 10.
Our diversity, equity, and inclusion is a strength of this city in Plano, and I embrace it 100%. And I think by reinforcing that, we'll continue to show, obviously, people are going to have biases, racist behaviors for whatever reason. But if they see that this is not tolerated from the city's point of view or the policeman's point of view, I believe they'll move somewhere else or behave differently when they come here. And so it's really important to us to show we will not tolerate that kind of behavior.
And from the sheriff's department at the county, again, this was really within the city limits, so the county really has no part of that whole situation. But our sheriff's department, we work very hard on training bias, inclusion, discrimination, and all those trainings. We put that in play with all of our deputies and all of our levels of the sheriff's department.
Appreciate that. Next question we have a number of questions about possible plans to open a library or to open a...
So is that guy a Republican or a Democrat?
So he's actually a Democrat. He's the mayor of Plano, one of the largest cities in North Texas. And
what's his name?
Mayor Munns. That's
the guy. Yeah, that's the guy in the middle, right? In the middle of the clip.
Yeah, in the middle of the clip that said he supports diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's been endorsed by Plano DEI, and he's been endorsed by Democrats. And that's the problem that you're seeing, is that you have these local elected officials that are pandering to radical Islamists, the ones that are behind creating the Sharia law city. And these elected officials are saying, we're going to support diversity, we want you involved. And it's these several things. They want their support, but also they're just virtue signaling. They want to appear, we're inclusive, we're including everyone, knowing very well that they support radical Sharia law and they want to destroy their way of life. I will say that this institution has been trying to get people involved, especially local elected officials, to go and attend their little forums, go and attend their community events. So that way they create political power. You can go to their YouTube channel, Epic Masjid. That's how it's spelled on YouTube. That's their official YouTube channel. And you will find hundreds and hundreds of videos where they are supporting Sharia law. They are supporting political power for Muslims. One of the clips that they have on YouTube, they basically say that, yes, we want super Muslim PACs. And people have been reporting on this. I know Rare Foundation has been reporting on this, and many other conservative activists. But that
Amy Mack has done a lot of great work on this. And I'm hoping to get Amy on the program too. But Amy has done fantastic work, and her Twitter account is an amazing resource. Her Rare Foundation too is an incredible resource for people that want to learn about this. So shout out to Amy Mack, and I'm hoping that she'll come on the program soon. I was messaging with her earlier tonight too, and we're working on trying to get her on the show. But she, has just, I would say more so than anybody, is to thank for this story blowing up and going viral online. Yep. So she's the one who made this go viral and made people start to question what's going on there in Epic City in Plano, Texas.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, she posted that report several months ago, and because of that reporting, a lot of people now know what's going on. They're going and digging on the YouTube channels, on their pages. Some are even reporting on what's happening in other institutions and mosques in Texas. And she started all of this. And now people are well aware. Ken Paxton is investigating. But it's a serious problem in Texas.
We have another clip of Sharia law city planners talking about lobbying in support of their compound. Let's go ahead and play clip number 17.
Table outside. Okay. Now, CARE has created the C4 organization, which is a lobbying organization to elevate the political influence of the Muslim community. And especially this was created after the genocide in Gaza. We were able to do it before, but to be honest with you, we grow with the community, okay? When everybody thought that, oh wow, we're spinning our wheels as C3 organizations. We're not getting any traction with these politicians. We cannot lobby, but C4 organization can lobby. So CARE Action is a C4 organization. Alhamdulillah, we have a chapter here at DFW. Brother Sohail is here, and there are other people outside. So connect with them and be part of this organization.
Is the judge who ordered the raid on Mar-a-Lago, has ordered me to pay CARE their attorney's fees each month, and I do. And he has threatened to fine me in contempt of court if I speak about this. So I just like to reiterate this anytime a guest brings up CARE, or anytime anything on the program comes about CARE.
Yeah, I mean, what you saw in that video just shows what radical Islamists in Texas want to do. In that, hello.
No, I'm seeing on the chat that the audio cut out for a moment, so I just want to make sure what people heard. What I was saying is that I have a gag order issued against me as it relates to speaking about CARE. The individual who was on the screen is Nihad Awad, who is the executive director of CARE. And so what I was trying to say before we had that audio glitch is that those are your words and this is your content. And so I allow guests to come on my program and talk about the things they want to talk about. But since I know that CARE has it out for me, and Judge Reinhart, who is the judge who ordered the raid on Mar-a-Lago, who has ordered me to pay CARE their attorney's fees each month, has threatened to fine me in contempt of court, I was just reiterating the fact that these are your words, these are your clips. It clearly has your watermark on it. And these are your descriptions as it relates to Sharia law city planners talking about the lobbying org, of course, being CARE. And so I just want to reiterate that because, you know, we are already living under Islamic blasphemy laws. The fact that I have been subjected to a gag order and threatened with imprisonment by a judge for simply speaking out about my own lawfare, the lawfare that I have been subjected to. And I was just trying to fight for my ability to have access to social media. And so people really need to take this serious because there are already judges in this country. The same judge who ordered the raid on Mar-a-Lago has ordered me to pay CARE their attorney's fees, and also, you know, I'm not allowed to speak about them. And so I'm just making that clear so that people understand how serious this matter is. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a joke. Literally every single month, because I decided to sue after, you know, you can read the reports yourself, after it was reported by the Wall Street Journal that this organization had lobbied Twitter to ban me on all social media. Because I decided to fight back after being deplatformed, I now have to send CARE a check every single month. And so I'm going to let you continue, but I just have to, as a way to protect myself, because, you know, I had to turn over all my details. They took my vehicle. They have my address, the VIN number for my old vehicle before my vehicle was taken from me, my bank information. And every single day I have to live in fear that, I'm going to be attacked by individuals who subscribe to this organization and the ideology that they're preaching because of the assault on my freedoms. So anyway, you can continue. I just, it's just a shame that I constantly have to reiterate that as a way to protect myself because of our broken legal system in this country. So I just take an opportunity to remind people of how serious this is because, I'm a walking, breathing example of what can happen to you if Republicans don't fight back. And unfortunately, Republicans didn't do anything to help me when I was being subjected to all of this cancel culture for speaking out and warning people for years about the threat of Islamic terror. And now every single month I have to pay this same group whose executive director was just on video in that clip that you played. So you can continue.
Wow. I mean, organizations like CARE, the AVL, and other organizations, they use lawfare. They terrorize Americans, and I'm sorry that you're experiencing that. You're being terrorized by these organizations. That shouldn't happen in America whatsoever.
No, it shouldn't.
But
it's unfortunate. And again, I'm not even allowed to speak about it. And every single month I have to send them a check, and it's horrible, especially as a Jewish woman that I have to send this check. But every month, every single month I have to send this check and as part of this arrangement. But I just want people, because, the media always says, oh, these right wingers are Islamophobic and, they're anti-Muslim and they're alarmist. And I'm sure you've heard all this rhetoric too in Texas, right? We're racist, right? Because we're speaking out about this. But look, there are people in this country who have already been subjected to Islamic blasphemy laws. I literally have been subjected by a court order to Islamic blasphemy laws as an American citizen.
No, I mean, that's unacceptable. And that's what happens when you have weak Republican leadership. In Texas, whether it's be members of Congress or governors or the courts, the Republican Party under President Trump has improved a lot, but there's still improvement that needs to be done. And had it not been for President Trump, I think the country would have been in a worse position, and moderates would have been running the show, and probably the radical Islamic takeover would have gone to the point of just horrendous results across the country. But it just goes back to leadership, Republican leadership. You got to have America First Republicans that have backbone, that will fight back, that will pass laws that will actually combat this and eradicate this evil. Because you're seeing it across Europe. You're seeing it in our college campuses. They will take over. They will destroy the environment that they are taking over, because that is what they want. They want complete and total occupation, and they want to crush the people that they deem enemies, which is non-Muslims, and take over. And we cannot be nice. We cannot be peaceful, because they will not be peaceful to us whatsoever, and they are not. I mean, they all work as a collective beehive, and they will antagonize you. They will terrorize you. We need Republicans with strong backbone that are elected into office and that will pass laws that will protect Americans, the Constitution, our values. And stop worrying about what the media says. I have been labeled as a racist. I have been labeled as an anti-Semite. I have been labeled all types of things. And the thing I will always tell Republicans is you have to stop worrying about what the media calls you, because that's how they win. They want you to be afraid, and they want you to shut down. But if everyone had a backbone and said, I don't care what they call me anymore, we're going to pass the law that will ban radical Sharia law. We're going to pass a law that bans, abortion or transgenderism, and who cares what the other side calls me? I can assure you the country would be 100 times better. We're getting to that point where Republicans are slowly getting rid of the rhinos. I mean, 10 years ago, it was really horrendous. But President Trump, J.D. Vance, America First Republicans, they are doing a lot of progress within the party. And it will take a couple of years to get rid of the final segments of the rhinos and moderates.
What can viewers who are watching now, some of whom may be residents of Texas or some of whom may just be outraged, I want to go to the chat too and give people an opportunity to ask you questions. If you're watching live right now, we are live. Please be sure that you're reposting the live link on X and on Rumble. If you have any questions for Carlos Tercios, please put your questions in the chat. But what can people watching right now do? Obviously, some of this is just too far gone. We cannot get rid of Pakistan Day because that's already been passed. It's my understanding, though, that the resolution to make March 15th the day to combat Islamophobia is being referred to committee, and it hasn't been passed yet. The designation of Muslim Capital Day is still going on, and in 5 days, the Texas legislature is going to be invaded by Muslims. So unless there is some kind of like counter day of action at the Capitol where Christians and Jews outnumber the Muslims, I don't really know what's going to happen as the Muslims decide to symbolically conquer the Texas state capitol. Which of these resolutions that you mentioned tonight on my show have passed committee and have passed the House and are now officially law in Texas? And which ones do the people of Texas have an ability to stop? And if so, how do they stop that? What can people watching right now do to assist you and others? Because you work for a representative, correct?
Yes, Representative Nate Schatzline.
Okay, yeah, and I saw your content online. You were talking about this, and then you told me that you worked with a representative. So what can people do? How do we stop this? How do we stop the resolutions thus far? And if you can just explain which ones we have a chance of combating.
Yes, so HR 34 recognizing Ramadan, that one was passed. HR 36, Eid al-Fitr, that was passed in the House, and Pakistan Day was passed in the House. The ones that have not been passed is HCR 85, which is designating March 15 as a day to combat Islamophobia. And then the other one is designating May as Muslim Heritage Month for a 10-year period. Both of them have been referred to the Cultural Recreation and Tourism Committee. My advice for people is to simply call your lawmakers if you live in Texas and let them know, hey, we don't support these resolutions. We don't support any resolution or bill that advances radical Sharia law and radical Islam in the state of Texas. Contact your state reps, contact your state senators, contact even your local officials because they might sway the state representative. But that's my encouragement, is to get involved, call your reps, go to their offices, talk to them. You're the constituent, you're the voter, you're the one who pretty much put them there. And especially the Republican voters, they have a mandate to lead. And you have, of course, the ability to go to their office, get a meeting with them. And that's your right as a citizen of America and as a Texas resident. You have a right to meet with your state representatives.
Is Governor Abbott and is Speaker Dustin Burrows, are they participating in Muslim Capital Day?
Well, there's going to be, unfortunately, a lot of local elected officials that very well will be participating. We'll see who shows up for that day. But I think it's worth noting, if any Republican shows up for that day, I think people need to take record of that and keep that, of course, in mind when the primary season comes, when the general election comes, because I don't think any Republican should be attending that event. So we'll just have to wait and see who shows up.
This isn't about being anti-Muslim. It's because the organizations that are organizing this Muslim Day of Action have ties to terrorist organizations. We're not saying that all Muslims are not worthy of representation. There are some very good patriotic Muslims in this country. There are some, most of them, seem to have a problem assimilating, I will say. But look, I had a Muslims for Loomer coalition when I ran for Congress, and there were some Muslims who actually were brave enough to admit that what I was saying about Islam is true. And they felt rejected by their communities, or they didn't believe that the Muslim representatives in Congress were representative of them as a reformed Muslim. But unfortunately, if you call yourself a reformed Muslim in these other countries, you will be killed as an apostate. And so it's a very lonely experience for honest Muslims, patriotic Muslims who assimilate, who want to recognize the problems with the Islamic ideology. And many of these peoples are excommunicated from their own Islamic centers for being very brave and speaking out. And so I just want to make it very clear that we're not saying that, no Republican can ever meet with any Muslim or else they should be primaried. But these organizations that are on the flyers, and again, I'm not going to mention all of the names, right? Partially because I have a gag order, but also because, there's just so many. But ICNA, ISNA, SJP, MSA, Islamic Relief, right? There's so many of these organizations whose names are going to be sprinkled on these flyers that get passed around the Capitol. Every single one of these organizations was mentioned during the Holy Land Foundation terrorism trial, our nation's largest terrorism financing trial, which took place in Texas, by the way. And it was documented that they had ties to Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, and they were supposed to be shut down, and many of their leaders and officials were supposed to be jailed. And then Obama stepped in. Barack Hussein Obama, our first Muslim president, stepped in and interfered with Eric Holder, and they declined to prosecute these individuals for terror financing, which is why now they have been able to get away with it, and they are still receiving a tax-exempt 501c3 status. That's what's happening, and that's why today I was on Steve Bannon's show, and I've been saying this for the last 10 years, and I'll say it again. The Trump administration needs to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. This was a measure and a plan that was supposed to be carried out and executed during the first Trump term, and it was promised to us over and over again. However, now we see that the Muslim Brotherhood has still not, to this day, been designated as a terrorist organization here in the United States. But just today, it was designated by Jordan. It's been designated by the UAE. It's been designated by Saudi Arabia. Qatar is funding the Muslim Brotherhood. In May, we have an article we can get pulled up. President Trump, in the middle of May, is taking a trip to Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia for several days to meet with these officials and leaders. In my opinion, President Trump, when he goes to Qatar, should demand that they stop funding the Muslim Brotherhood, and the president should sign an executive order declaring the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization while he is actually in Qatar to send a message to the Qatari financiers of the Muslim Brotherhood that Islamic terrorism and financing of Islamic terrorism on United States soil is not going to be tolerated. That's what I would do if I was advising the President Trump. That's honestly what I would do. I would, it would be such a ballsy move. It would be such a ballsy move that would scare the shit out of the Qataris, in my opinion.
Definitely there's a lot of things that need to be done, especially with the Muslim Brotherhood that needs to be labeled as a terrorist organization.
Absolutely.
But you did hit a very good point, and that is the problem of assimilation. Assimilation should be heavily enforced in America. Unfortunately, you have illegal aliens. Well, they shouldn't even be in America, but you do have some immigrants that don't assimilate, and they carry the Mexican flag, or they carry the Palestinian flag, or the flag of their foreign country, and that needs to be enforced. The assimilation of anyone that comes here needs to be enforced, because that's the reason why we're seeing so much chaos in our college campuses. That's why you're seeing so much chaos even in the state of Texas, because you have these communities such as, the radical Islamists in Texas that don't want to assimilate. They want to create their own Pakistan in Texas, despite the fact that they fled the Middle East. They want to recreate their own country here, following their own customs, following their own laws. And my encouragement to anyone that wants to participate, wants to push back, is to go and post on Twitter. Go talk to your state representative. Make noise. Go to the YouTube channel of this radical Sharia law group. They have hundreds of videos. Share it to the people and let them know, hey, this is happening here in Texas. Share the clips of what the lawmakers in Austin are doing. Passing these resolutions. You can go to the Texas House broadcast channel, and you can find all of those clips. And I encourage people to share those clips. Go screen record, go post whatever you want to post. Information. We need to make noise. We need to mobilize an army. And this isn't about, you do that or you do that. This is about, we got to get the truth out. We got to mobilize. We got to save Texas. We got to save America. We have to push back. And if we don't push back, we don't mobilize, we will ultimately lose Texas and America. And we have to call it out. It is radical Islam. It is Sharia law. And people need to stop being snowflakes.
It's actually just Islam. I mean, honestly, I know that the politically correct term is to say radical Islam, but it really is just Islam in its purest form, truly. I mean, if we're being honest.
True. No, that's true.
Carlos, I really appreciate you coming on my program tonight. Any last comments, any last thoughts or recommendations or calls to action from our viewers tonight? We have over 40,000 live viewers right now who are receiving this information in real time. Any last thoughts or comments?
Be bold. You're going to be labeled all types of things. I have been labeled all types of things. They're all false, but I don't let that, of course, change my trajectory. I don't let that change what I do. And that's the reason why the left has been winning over the past several years until President Trump came, because they use tactics to try and scare you. They will label you a racist, Islamophobe, anti-Semite, which are all false. You need to ignore the media. You need to ignore what they call you and get involved. Be bold, hold accountable like they're officials who don't want to hold accountable or push back against radical Islam and what's happening in America. Hold them accountable, get involved in the primary season, get involved in the general election season, get to know who your state rep is, and then find out how have they voted, recently or the past several months here in the state of Texas. Find out, do you support this resolution? Do you support this bill? That is how we're going to take back our country in Texas, and we're going to push back against Islam taking over Texas.
And the last thing I want to ask you before you go, I was going to ask this earlier, between John Cornyn and Ken Paxton, as it relates to this issue of the Islamification of Texas, who would be the stronger candidate for United States Senator from Texas?
Well, that's an easy choice. It'll be Ken Paxton. He's the one who's been very aggressive in actually tackling this. And in my opinion, I think he's going to accomplish more than Senator Cornyn. Senator Cornyn is the one who praised Ramadan. Senator Cornyn is the one who said, Inshallah. And Senator Cornyn right now, of course, is trying to make himself appear as he's tough against Islam. But in reality, his record, of course, will speak for itself. But, Ken Paxton, he has my complete and total endorsement. He's going to be a fantastic senator, and I can't wait for him to actually kick out, Cornyn and give him a good retirement.
Yeah, maybe it sounds like they're building retirement homes on the Epic City compound. So maybe they'll give Senator John Cornyn a discount. Inshallah, yes. Right? Inshallah. Inshallah.
Maybe he can go there.
Inshallah. Carlos, where do people follow you on social media if they want to see more of your content and the clips that you're pushing out? You're putting out very interesting content, even though you are an aide to a state representative. What's your official position in the state legislature?
I'm a legislative director.
You're a legislative director, great. But even though you're a legislative director, you're kind of serving this dual role as like a watchdog investigative journalist too, which I really like because, who better to serve as a watchdog investigative reporter than the legislative directors who are there every single day watching all of this. So I find your account to be very interesting because you don't really see a lot of legislative directors or aides for representatives taking a journalistic approach. So I want to applaud you for the work you're doing. Where do people follow you on social media?
Yeah, so you can follow me on X. It's at Carlos. Of course, 2 little lines below, and then Turcios, Turcios. You could also follow me on Facebook. I do have a Facebook page. You can just type in my name and it'll pop up. And same thing for Instagram. It's the real Carlos Turcios. You can find me there as well.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. And hopefully this has opened people's minds. I'm going to take some questions from the chat when you get off momentarily, but hopefully people recognize that the threat of Islamic conquest is here, and we can be conquered, and we can have an Islamic caliphate erected in this country if we don't take this seriously now. And so very shocking that this is happening in Texas of all states, but we'll be following this story as it develops closely, and we hope to have you back on the program soon, Carlos. Thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Totally nuts, you guys. Absolutely insane. I've been talking about Sharia law for years now. They called me a crazy anti-Muslim bigot. Everywhere you go, it's like anti-Muslim this, anti-Muslim that, Laura Loomer. you know, when Trump wanted to hire me, when he hired me in his office at Mar-a-Lago in March of 2023 during the primary, when the New York Times article came out, actually, that's what the title was, is President Trump wanted to hire anti-Muslim Laura Loomer. You can actually pull that up briefly before we cut to this commercial break, but it's just so funny, right? And now their favorite thing to call me is a 9/11 truther, right? But if you type in Trump wanted to hire Laura Loomer, it's like just type in New York Times after that. Like type in New York Times. Yeah. Nope, that's the older one. Let's see. Here we go. Scroll down. It's just so funny. See, April 7th, 2023, Trump wanted to hire Laura Loomer, anti-Muslim activist. So, you know, they call me an anti-Muslim activist because I've been warning everybody about this. I've been speaking out for almost an entire decade about the threat of Islam in America. And now, look, it's a little too late, I think. I think that a lot of these Sharia compounds, unfortunately, are going to be erected because the Muslims have ingratiated themselves and they've been practicing taqiyya and getting away with so much subversion and infiltration in state legislatures and also just the United States Congress in general. And there's been so much wokeism and DEI, and we had the presidency, our first Muslim president, Barack Hussein Obama, and then the presidency of Joe Biden, which was essentially Barack Hussein's third term, in which they allowed for thousands and thousands and thousands of Islamic terrorists to come into our country. So now we are invaded. We have ISIS in all 50 states. We have Muslim encampments and support for Hamas on pretty much every single college and university campus across the country. We have, well, President Trump is now controlling our borders, but still, we do not have mass deportations at the rate at which they should be occurring. And unfortunately, we have so many of these jihadist individuals from all around the world who are now residing in our country. And ICE is able to pick up some of these people, as I showed you in that video earlier. A 655% spike in terrorist arrests since Donald Trump assumed office in January. In 5 or 6 days, rather, 5 or 6 days, by the end of this evening, by the end of the show episode tonight, so starting tomorrow, it'll be 5 days, but as of now it's 6. We will have officially 100 days of the second Trump administration. And so, again, President Trump can't just shut all this down in one day, right? We now have to identify all of the infiltrators and the people who have come into our country illegally. We have to disband these terror cells, and it's going to be hard to do, but it needs to get done. And I believe that it will get done, hopefully, if the Republicans actually support Trump's agenda, because as we have seen, so many Republicans, even in Congress, look, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib already should have been censored. They already should have been censured for all of their pro-Hamas activities in Congress. And yet Mike Johnson doesn't have the balls to do it. None of the Republicans have the balls to do it, actually. They are afraid of being called a racist, right? They changed the congressional rules to allow for Ilhan Omar to wear hijab on the floor of the House, where they had a 200-year rule that said no head coverings on your head. Even Jews weren't allowed to wear kippahs on the floor of the House. But nope. Now she's got to wear her hijab, right? We have to bend over backwards for the Muslims, right? Well, that's what happens. So before we continue, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of tonight's episode of Loomer Unleashed, and that, of course, is Kirk Elliott Precious Metals.
Breaking news. Laura Loomer has been canceled. The President of the United States has refused to take her phone calls as he suspects she is soon to be arrested.
Is Laura Loomer the most hated person on planet Earth? We want to hear from you, the listener, and get your opinion on whether or not...
Man, I tell you, I heard she got canceled. We coming for you, bitch. We coming to your house, Laura Loomer. We fight. We know where you live. We coming for you right now. We coming for your friends. We coming for your friend's little dog.
Frankly, I hope they throw her away for the rest of her life. I hope she dies.
She is currently on the run from authorities. She is described as armed and dangerous.
I just can't believe she's been getting away with it for this. An angry mob appears to be forming outside the home of journalist Laura Loomer.
What is wrong with you? Why are you not panicking?
Because I called Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, and I learned how adding gold and silver to my portfolio is one of the safest ways to not just grow my finances, but to also protect them from the uncertainty of the future. So I'm fine.
Call economist Kirk Elliott at 720-605-3900 or schedule a call online at kepm.com/Loomer to learn how you can safely grow your retirement portfolio with precious metals.
Be sure that you visit their website today, kepm.com/Loomer, kepm.com/Loomer. Gold is surging as economic uncertainty is on the minds of people here, not just in the United States of America, but also abroad as these Trump tariffs go into effect. So be sure that you contact the team today over at Kirk Elliott Precious Metals and invest in precious metals, gold, silver. Find out how you can diversify your portfolio and invest in gold and silver today. Again, kepm.com/Loomer, or you can call them at 720-605-3900, 720-605-3900. Let them know that Laura Loomer sent you. If you didn't catch last week's episode of Loomer Unleashed, I had a fantastic interview with Dr. Kirk of Dr. Kirk Elliott Precious Metals himself on my program, talking about the tariffs and talking about why gold is soaring in value. So if you haven't seen that interview yet, I would encourage you to watch that from last week's episode of Loomer Unleashed. Let's go to the chat, see if anybody has any questions. Isn't this crazy? I just can't believe that Republicans are so stupid. Really can't. It's sad though, right? Because we really don't need to be here today talking about Islamic compounds. It's really sad that here we are because Republicans were such big pussies. They didn't want to be called Islamophobes like me, that they decided to actually allow for Sharia compounds to start being built on 400 acres of land in Texas. It's just so sad to me because, you know, it's probably going to lead to Islamic terrorist attacks. It's probably going to lead to honor killings. It's going to lead to animal abuse and these horrific halal animal murders and sacrifices that so many of these Muslims, because once they start to get their Islamic communities and they start advocating for things like animal sacrifice out in the streets. We've talked about this extensively. They do it in Hamtramck. They do it in Dearborn. If you don't believe me, you can look it up yourself, where they've actually passed resolutions with their fully Muslim city council, Muslim mayor, who was just unfortunately nominated for an ambassadorship position by President Trump for Kuwait. I don't know why he did that, but again, there are a lot of people in the Republican Party who do not understand the real threat of Islam in America. It's very, very distressing. Paula Bug said, Laura, do you think President Trump will designate Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization? I hope. I mean, look, he promised that he was going to do it the first term. He didn't. And I don't know why he didn't, but that is something that there's a lot of pushback over. And even Steve Bannon himself, when I was on his show today, I think we have some of those clips. You can pull them from X if you want to see some sections of my interview with Steve Bannon today. He even said that when he was in the White House, the thing that he received the most pushback on when he was working for President Trump within the admin was designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. So we're going to see what happens. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people. Qatar has their tentacles over everything and everyone in Washington, D.C., every single organization, every single Republican, every single Democrat. And so Qatar is a financier of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is why I said when President Trump goes to Qatar and when he goes to UAE and when he goes to Saudi Arabia, a very ballsy move would be for President Trump to get an executive order signed and bring it with him when he goes to Qatar, designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization and demanding that they stop funding these terrorist activities on U.S. soil. I mean, the UAE would back Trump up. Saudi Arabia would back Trump up. They have both designated the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. Just today, Jordan also banned the Muslim Brotherhood from operating in their country on grounds of their support of terrorist organizations and terrorist activity. So why are we playing ball with Qatar? Why is there not the same expectation from Qatar? And why, if the UAE, if Muslim nations, okay, if Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Jordan are now designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, why won't the United States? I mean, don't you think the Muslims know the intentions of other Muslims? I would say that that's a pretty big red flag when other Muslim nations are designating a group that is not designated here in the United States as being a terrorist organization. Like, what exactly is our own government waiting for? I don't understand, but it's a big problem. Big problem. They even control offices in the State Department. Did you know that? It's shocking. Qatar has so much influence in our country, and hopefully, I mean, look, today we have there was a clip today. President Trump signed an executive order requiring universities to disclose foreign gifts. A lot of these foreign gifts are coming from Qatar. So I just don't understand. If we have to have an executive order signed so that universities have to disclose foreign nations, especially Islamic nations, let's be honest, it's the Muslim nations that are giving all this money to universities. That's why these universities are hotbeds of radicalism, because you have such large contributions to Ivy League institutions from Muslim countries. Then why don't we designate them as well, right? Why not? Universities should have to disclose which foreign Islamic actors are donating to them. President Trump agrees. He just signed an executive order saying that today. So why not designate the Muslim Brotherhood so we don't even have to worry about the financing? We would stop all this terrorist activity on college campuses, and you wouldn't even need to have judicial coups and tit for tats with all these radical progressive judges who are saying, no, you can't deport Mahmoud Khalil. No, you can't take the visas of all these Palestinians. No. Who gives a shit what these judges think? Designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, and then anybody that has a club on campus that is affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood or Palestinian chapters will be cited for supporting terrorism. It's that simple. There are ways to bypass this judicial coup in our country. I don't understand. Look, I was told that only geniuses get to work for Trump. I was told that only the best and brightest work for President Donald Trump. Okay, the best and the brightest in our country. I don't think so. Okay, I don't think so. I really honestly don't think a lot of these people who work for Donald Trump are so smart. Okay, and I don't really give a shit if they're watching or this gets back to them and they get offended. I don't give a shit. Okay, if all these people who work for Donald Trump are so smart, why are they telling him to put tariffs on a country that or an island that doesn't even have a human population and only has penguins? Right? Not so smart after all, are they? I don't really think these people are so smart. Some of them, yes. A lot of them, no. If they're so smart, how come they didn't have the brains and the power to convey to President Trump that his own intelligence agencies have been infested with a bunch of Biden holdovers who hate his guts? Well, I guess a lot of these people aren't so smart after all, right? Thank God I exist. Kind of ridiculous. Ay. Out of control. But hey, only the best and brightest get to work for Trump. Look, we were told that Donald Trump only hires the best people. Let me tell you, okay? Donald Trump does not hire the best people, okay? These people may want to pretend and put on a facade that they are the best people for the president, but at the end of the day, they are blocking a lot of very important information from the president because a lot of the people who work for President Trump have their own conflicting agendas. I'm not saying that everybody who works for him is not smart, but there are some people who work in the White House who, in my opinion, and look, I'm allowed to have an opinion, they're just, some of these people are just really not the sharpest tools in the shed, if I'm being totally honest. That's my right. I can have an opinion. Let's see. They flooded our country with illegals and now making Trump team work for every person to be deported. It's a slow game for the least amount of deportations. Absolutely. They don't want to have any deportations. And so now they're trying to make it so that every single person that is set to be deported has to go through, a trial and get due process, even though they're criminals. They came into our country illegally. Playing the long game. They know Trump can't deport all who invaded under Biden. Let's scroll up. I know we had a lot of comments during that episode. Let me know what you thought about our guest tonight. If you learned a lot from our guest, Carlos Tercios, tonight on Loomer Unleashed, put a 1 in the chat. I want to make sure that, we have long form interviews here on the program so that you're able to really understand and digest a topic instead of having it being a rushed 10-minute segment. So hopefully you found this to be informative and educational because, I find that a lot of these show hosts, they all just talk about the same thing, and it's very boring over and over again. But I like to have original content here. So if you enjoyed that interview and you found it to be educational and informative, press 1 in the chat. Let's scroll up. I want to see some of these comments that we missed. I'm sure Muslims and other evildoers aren't just in Texas. Fast 53 Freddie, thank you. I love Laura Loomer. She's a top-notch real news conveyor and reporter. Thank you. I've seen a recent video clip on X of Kate Middleton extending her hand to shake a Muslim man. He turned and wouldn't even acknowledge her. Women are akin to dogs to these warped cretins. Look, there's a lot of backwards thinking with this ideology, which is why it's very concerning that this is happening, that they're going to have an encampment. It's essentially a no-go zone. They are essentially creating Islamic no-go zones. And for years, we've been told that this is a conspiracy theory. And I've been warning about the rise of Sharia law and Sharia no-go zones here in America, places like Minnesota, places like Michigan, and now Texas. Okay, so again, people always thought that Texas was this bastion of freedom, right? Come and take it. Yeah, pew, 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 pew. Right, Texas is the land of the free. They like to, portray themselves as being the most badass state in the nation. But even Texas, it seems, can't save itself from being conquered by Muslims. They are literally being taken over by Muslims. This is an Islamic takeover in the state of Texas that is being sanctioned and allowed to take place by the Republican GOP legislature. Scroll up. Let's see what people are saying. Where's Ted Cruz to speak out about this? I don't know. Good question. Who is in charge of the press passes? I believe that would be Caroline Levitt and Stephen Chung. I don't know. No one's getting back to me about my press pass. I guess I need to increase my Trump hatred, apparently. Maybe if I turn into an insufferable bitch like Caitlin Collins, or maybe if I get a boom mic and I hit President Trump in the face like that NPR reporter. I don't know. Maybe if I do something crazy, my press pass will be approved, right? I'm just kidding. But really, honestly, it is kind of shocking that the woman who hit President Trump in the face with a boom mic, she was able to travel in the press pool with the president, and they still allowed her to. And then it was only a big deal when I exposed her, and then she seems to have deleted her Twitter account. It's kind of odd that the White House press team didn't find it, worthwhile to expose who that woman from NPR was until I exposed her for hitting President Trump in the face. They even wrote an article about it. They even wrote an article about her in the Daily Mail about how she went into hiding after my reporting. So again, like, if you're a Trump hater, even if you assault the president, literally, if you assault the president of the United States, you have a better chance of getting a press pass than Laura Loomer. Kind of crazy. Really, really crazy. Here we go. This was from March, but you can see again, this really happened. NPR reporter driven into hiding after being named by MAGA, I'm the one who exposed her, as the person who hit Trump in the face with a microphone. You can scroll down. Danielle Kurtzlbein, a political correspondent for the government-funded outlet, was named as the journalist who allegedly hit Trump in the face with a boom mic during a press conference last week, according to independent journalist Laura Loomer. Loomer, a staunch Trump fan, identified Kurtzlbein on Sunday in a post on X suggesting she may have hit the president on purpose. Quote, I have identified the reporter who hit President Trump in the face with a boom mic this week while he was speaking to the press on the tarmac. Her name is Danielle Kurtzlbein. She is a newly appointed White House reporter for NPR and a massive Trump hater and LGBTQ advocate who once suggested during the 2024 campaign that Trump only spoke in Howell, Michigan because, quote, it has ties to the KKK. Interesting. I don't have a press pass, but this person was able to travel on the plane on Air Force One with President Trump and had a press pass. So crazy, crazy things happening in the Trump White House. But, what is it that they say? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink, right? That's what they say. Before we move on, I want to take a moment to thank the second sponsor of tonight's episode of Loomer Unleashed, and that, of course, is Grassy. Sip on the power of nature with Grassy, the organic wellness water that does more than just hydrate. This small business was founded on a mission to keep jobs here at home in America, especially in rural communities. Grassy is committed to investing in American manufacturing instead of sending production overseas. Made and sourced in the United States, each bottle of Grassy is packed with detoxifying barley grass juice powder plus 100% of your daily vitamin C, D, and zinc, giving you and your body the clean energy and immune boost that you need. It's USDA certified, organic, plant-based, vegan, and it's low in sugar, making it perfect for athletes, families, and anybody who wants to stay healthy on the go. So head on over to grassy.com, that's GRAASI.com, and use code Laura20 at checkout. Here you go. You can see the website here. Nice website. I have Grassy here on my back shelf. I love this drink. I drink it often. Drink it every week. I used to get vitamin infusion therapy because I had some blood work done once, and they said that I was vitamin D deficient. I was feeling very tired. And I was vitamin D deficient. And I love this drink because it has vitamin C, D, and zinc. It has several different flavors, but you can get your daily vitamin dose just by drinking it. It doesn't have a lot of sugar. It's very refreshing. If you have children, you can put it in your children's lunch boxes as a drink alternative, a beverage alternative. I know that some kids want to have like juice packets. Those are not very good for your children. They're loaded with sugar, loaded with carbohydrates, right? A lot of childhood diabetes and childhood obesity comes because parents give their kids these juices thinking, oh, it's juice, it's juice, it's juice, but it has all types of dyes and all types of sugars. Well, Grassy is natural and has a total of 4 sugars and only 4 carbs, much healthier than some of these beverages that your children are drinking at school in the vending machines. So again, head on over to Grassy.com, Grassy.com. It's for adults, it's for children, it's for anybody who wants to boost their overall wellness and immunity. Discover the benefits of Grassy organic barley grass water, the perfect blend of taste and wellness. Again, when you use code Laura20 at checkout, you will save 20% on your entire purchase all month long. Cucumber lime, lemongrass ginger, citrus mint, USDA certified organic ingredients for pure natural wellness, non-GMO. It's made without genetically modified organisms, only 4 grams of sugar per bottle, sweetened with cane sugar and monk fruit. Okay, so it's not going to make you fat. Vegan friendly, if you're a vegan, suitable for a vegan diet. Plant-based, made with nutrient-dense barley grass juice powder. Low sugar content makes it suitable for diabetics. So if you're diabetic, you can even drink this drink. Provides 8 essential amino acids and 12 of the 16 essential amino acids helping support the detoxification of the liver, blood, and gastrointestinal tract. And again, delicious flavors available in lemongrass, ginger, citrus mint, and cucumber lime. Check it out. Code Laura20 for 20% off. Alrighty, let's scroll down. Any more comments or questions? Somebody said, clickbait shit title, imagine thinking Texas would let Muslims take over. It's happening. What do you mean? We showed you the evidence. We just showed you the evidence of how they're building a compound and they are being investigated for allegedly operating a funeral home without a license, okay? Completely disregarding state laws and regulations because they want to have their own Islamic way of life. So it's not clickbait, it's real. Absolutely crazy. Here's something funny that happened today. Kamala Harris, Democrats in disarray. Kamala Harris actually sent out an email today talking about how the Democrats and their fundraising is down, how they're having abysmal fundraising numbers, and I don't even know why you would put this out. I mean, obviously we know that the Democrats are in disarray, but I just think it's funny that they're actually putting this in writing. Do we have that email? Let's go ahead and get that pulled up. Pretty funny. It's just so funny to me that the Democrat Party hasn't come to realize that they have killed off their party by behaving like lunatics. Here we go. Kamala Harris just sent this. I actually got this email on my phone because I subscribe to the emails because I like knowing what the enemy and the opposition is up to. Kamala Harris just sent out this email about how Democrat fundraising has drastically slowed down. Democratic Party fundraising has slowed dramatically. You can scroll down. Harris Fight Found, of course, you know, she's still having to raise money because she's in debt. Here's the truth, directly and transparently. Democrats across the country have received a lot fewer individual donations so far this month than had been hoped for, and certainly less than the last few months. It's not great. Scroll down. Some of the reasons are totally understandable. The economy looks incredibly shaky. Elon is firing as many people as he can, and there are a lot of organizations that need help during this crazy time. Oh, so basically the federal government was funding Democrat organizations with USAID is what you're saying, right? A lot of organizations need help during this time because they're cutting the budget for USAID. Yeah, look, why don't we just admit what's in front of our eyes? And that's the fact that the Democrats can't function and fully operate unless they abuse the taxpayers as their own personal slush fund to pay for all of their corrupt, woke DEI initiatives and all their treasonous activity. That's what's going on. And they're realizing, oh, well, I guess the gravy train's up now because they found out what we were doing. It's all being exposed. We've all seen how the USAID money was being used to subsidize all of these leftist media organizations. Cat's out of the bag, Kamala. So I enjoy watching them suffer, personally. But it's not stopping the most prominent Democrat donors in our country from supporting craziness. We've been reviewing the FEC records that recently just came out, and we're going to be having more reports in the coming days here on Loomer Unleashed and also on my X account. So please be sure that you're following me on X at Laura Loomer. But just to show you, right, here's an example of just how lost the Democrats are. We know that Jasmine Crockett is crazy. She was the other day, we have that video of her acting like a ghetto black woman. Boy, let me tell you something. Okay, they don't understand. They don't understand that, you know, if you start some shit with me, I'm gonna fight back, right? Because I'm a black woman. I'm a black woman, and you don't start shit with me. You feels me? Like do we have that video of her behaving like a DEI Shaniqua? Let's go ahead and play the clip. This is a real video of a Democrat member of Congress talking like some hood rat. She's gonna pull up on your crib and pop a cap in your ass, bitch. Let's play the clip.
I want y'all to know that every day that I walk in those halls, regardless of whatever rhetoric they put out about me, I am a very serious lawmaker. At the same time, if you try me, you will find out. I just want to be clear about that, because I am truly a black woman at the same time. So.
Child, please. I'm a very serious lawmaker. You feels me? I go around calling myself dark woke because my skin be black. You get it? Like dark and woke because I want your children to be infected with the trans mentality. And I want white people, I want whitey to have to pay reparations, all these crackers in America. I want all these dumbass Trump voting crackers to have to pay reparations to black queens like me. Because I'm a bad bitch. Yeah, this is who the Democrats are now floating as their strongest member of Congress. Ghetto. And that's how she talks. She really honestly talks like that. She talks extremely ghetto. She assaulted Loomer Unleashed DC contributor Charles Downs, if you recall. And we are still waiting for the Capitol Police to refer those assault charges in the police report to Ed Martin, the DC attorney. And they are stalling this. Even Ed Martin himself had quote tweeted our video and our statements about talking to the Capitol Police about this and said that he's willing to investigate it when it is put on his desk. implying that it has not yet been referred to him. So I don't really understand what's going on. But we have this article of Jasmine Crockett in the New York Times talking about how this behavior is now called dark woke. They're actually calling this ghetto ratchet behavior. We can go ahead and play the clip again. This behavior of Jasmine Crockett being like, I am a serious lawmaker, and if you mess with me, you're gonna find out, because I'm a black woman. What does that even mean? Like, you are black, and so you don't know how to control your temper, and if somebody picks a fight with you, they're going to be subjected to violence? Like, is that what she's saying? I don't know. We need like an Ebonics translator for this show. Go ahead and play the clip again.
I want y'all to know that every day that I walk in those halls, regardless of whatever rhetoric they put out about me, I am a very serious lawmaker. At the same time, if you try me, you will find out. I just want to be clear about that, because I am truly a black woman at the same time. So,
girl, if you try me, you gonna find out, because I'm a black woman. I'm a black woman. And the color of my skin permits me to assault whitey. You feels me? What is dark woke? I wish this was fake, but it's real, unfortunately. Published by the New York Times the other day. What is dark woke? Democrats are trying out a new attitude. It's provocative, edgy, and perilously towing the line of not being too offensive. So, I don't know. What are you? You're just like ghetto black lawmaker who, has no respect for law and order. That they're trying to make this a thing, like dark woke. They're trying to reclaim the word woke as if it's a good thing. It's not good to be woke. It's not good to be woke, but they're trying to make it seem like Jasmine Crockett being ghetto and being belligerent is intentional, right? And that this is actually political strategy, even though it's repelling everybody. It's even causing Democrats to want to leave their own party. I mean, honestly, even today here in Florida, the Democrat leader in the Florida legislature actually shocked everybody. He's expected to run for governor. His name is Jason Pizzo, right? I mean, so many Democrats are just fed up with this. Jason Pizzo, who is the Democrat leader here in the state of Florida in the Florida legislature, actually made an announcement on the floor of the Florida House today, announcing that he was rescinding his Democrat Party voter registration and that he had submitted the paperwork to leave the party and become an independent. I think we have that clip. If not, we can, I know that I tweeted it and we can get it pulled up, but it's just so many Democrats are fed up with just this absolute chaos within the Democrat Party. There's so much disarray. Let's scroll down. Let's see if we can find this clip. Scroll down a little bit more. Right there. Up. Here we go. Go ahead. Download that clip. So many Democrats are just completely fed up with the direction of the Democrat Party. And so now, right, because so many of their own are fleeing and they're saying, I don't really want some DEI Shaniqua representing me. That's not what I voted for when they voted Democrat, even though they don't like Trump. They're having to now justify this as if, she's not really actually going around being a racist and attacking reporters and physically assaulting them and calling the paralyzed Republican governor of Texas, Governor Hot Wheels, right? Texas Governor Abbott. She's not really actually calling for physical violence against Ted Cruz. No. This is all part of an act. It's called dark woke. You see, it's actually a persona. We're trying to be like edgy and provocative without being too offensive. We're all just actors here. We're all just actresses. Because they know that people, even on the left, are calling out these radical Democrats for their behavior, for their promotion of violence. They are inciting violence. Look at these Tesla takedown events where they are showing up, encouraging people to go to Tesla and protest, where they're firebombing Tesla locations. They're waving Hamas flags in front of the Capitol. You see people like Chuck Schumer, who is Jewish, or now I guess as President Trump says, he's a Palestinian. So, self-hating Jew, Palestinian Chuck Schumer, Democrat Senate Minority Leader, showing up to these radical protests. And instead of owning it, instead of condemning it, they want to say, oh, no. This is all political strategy. What the right is saying is incorrect. No. These people are not violent. They're not radical domestic terrorists. It's all an act, you guys. It's dark woke. It's dark woke. Right? Let's go back to that Times article. You can see for yourself. I'm not buying it. I think it's extremely offensive personally. And they're going to start calling black people dark people now? Is that what they're going to do? Dark people? Democrats are trying out a new attitude. It's provocative, edgy, and perilously towing the line of not being too offensive. Now, that's just called being ghetto. It's just called being belligerent, and it's called inciting violence. They're trying to make Jasmine Crockett the face of the party. Let's go ahead and play this clip. This was actually pretty shocking today out of the state of Florida, but not shocking really if you've been following along, because as I reported over a year ago, Jason Pizzo, I always said, was going to run for governor. And the only shocking aspect of this is that he's, not running as a Democrat. But I do believe that we're going to see Jason Pizzo file to run for the governor of Florida position, file paperwork for a candidacy for the Florida governor's race. He says that he's changed his affiliation to independent. Maybe he's going to run as an independent. I don't know. But I wouldn't exactly say that this is entirely because he's fed up with the Democrat Party. I think that he's trying to appeal to factions in the GOP and also on the left that are just sick and tired of their party. And so doing so is, the most logical thing to do would be registering as an independent instead of having the absolute stink and the stench of the radical progressive Democrats here in Florida attached to your name when you do decide to run for governor. So let's play the clip.
Whom I'm finding may not want it. There'll be a caucus meeting later this afternoon where I hope that the members of the Democratic caucus will elect a new leader. For today, I FedExed my voter registration form to change my party affiliation to no party affiliation. Joe Scott should receive that by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning in Broward County. And here's why. Our constituents are craving practical leaders, not political hacks. We are entrusted to be guided by our conscience, and while I suppose it's easier in theory than it is in application, even my worst detractors have no valid claim that I can be bullied, that I can be bought, or even borrowed for a special interest. I am my father's son, even in his death. I am my mother's son while she is still alive. I will not miss another one of her birthdays, and I will return to who I was when I became a young man, independent in thought, in my passion, and my conscience, not consultants, whom
it's all opportunism. Expect to see him file to run for governor of Florida. It's coming. Any last comments or questions? Again, we are live right now. If you're tuning in late, you can watch the full episode on rumble.com/Laura Loomer. Again, rumble.com/Laura Loomer, or you can repost the live X feed at Laura Loomer and also on Loomer Unleashed. If you would like to support the work I'm doing here, you can subscribe to me on X at Laura Loomer, or you can click the Get Loomered button here on the Rumble page, which will allow you to subscribe to my locals page for $7 a month or $70 per year, or you can also make a one-time donation. If you don't want to use locals or you don't want to use X, you can also support me on buymeacoffee.com, buymeacoffee.com/Loomer, where you can make a single donation, or you can also subscribe on a monthly basis. Go to the chat, see if there's any last questions. Somebody said they like my shirt. It's nice. Thanks. Very comfy. Marnie said, epic show. You educated a lot of people. Now it's time to take action. Great show, Laura. Yes, thank you. I am going to be traveling this weekend. I'm going to be appearing on a podcast. So Loomer Unleashed will resume next week for another episode on Tuesday. But I am going to be breaking some pretty big stories this weekend as well. You can follow my account as I continue to expose the vetting crisis in the White House, as I continue to expose the Islamification of Texas, and continue to expose the judicial coup against President Donald Trump and his administration. So even though it's the weekend and I don't do a show on the weekends, please be sure that you're following my X account on X at Laura Loomer and on X at Loomer Unleashed so that you never miss any of my updates and reports. Stay tuned to my X feed. Also be sure that you're following me on Truth Social at Laura Loomer and on Getter and Gab at Laura Loomer as well. If you have any tips and you ever want to submit a tip, you can also DM me on Twitter as well, or X rather. I just dead named Twitter. Whoops. You can DM me because a lot of people are watching this, and I'm even getting messages now as we're live on air. And a lot of people have stories that they want to share because courage is contagious. You know, when other people speak out, like when Carlos speaks out or Amy Mack or others speak out, it inspires other people to start talking about the things that they know. And everybody has information that they can share that can make our country a better place. Everybody can take matters into their own hands and be a citizen journalist and document things and document the invasion and the Islamic takeover in their own state or their own city where this is happening all across the country. I hope it's a wake-up call. My hope is that under the second Trump administration, Republicans can stop being pussies and worrying about being called Islamophobic and anti-Muslim, and that they will actually take these matters into their own hands and finally be tough on Islam, designate the Muslim Brotherhood so that we can truly make America safe again, as President Donald Trump promised the American people when he won his election, the third time to become president of the United States. With that, thank you so much for tuning in to Loomer Unleashed tonight. I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Tuesday for another live episode of Loomer Unleashed.
There is a young female journalist, conservative journalist, by the name of Laura Loomer. If America's men acted like Laura Loomer, our problems will be fixed in about 5 minutes.
Chained herself to
She
Twitter.
chained her.